Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Shalom, shalom. Greetings to everyone on this Sabbath. I'm back yet again for another quick message. So I am teaching a class during the month of March on budgeting. I'm teaching a class during the month of March on budgeting. But I want you to know you also, in conjunction with the budget, you also need a balance statement. You also need a balance statement. And in fact, there are really three key statements that you should be keeping on your finances that really give you a holistic look on your financial position. That first one is the budget. The second one is the balance sheet. And the third one is a cash flow statement or an income statement. Budget, balance sheet, cash flow. And they all are indicative of key things, okay? Your budget is a tool to simply manage your money. Your balance sheet is really giving you a holistic view of where you are in terms of building wealth. And then your income statement is really an indicator of how well you are cash flowing. And so my title of this particular segment is about what is your balance sheet telling you? What is your balance sheet telling you? And I'm going to connect this to what is happening in the banking industry right now, and in particular with a couple of banks that failed. One failed on last week and then another on this week. Your balance sheet, the premise of your balance sheet is a simple equation. Assets equals liability plus equity. Assets equals liability plus equity. The intent of that equation is to keep the sides of the equation balanced, i.e. the balance statement. On the asset side is everything that's an asset to you, right? That's cash. That could be your house. That is other assets that you own, all right? On the liability side is now the debt. That's the debt that you owe, largely on the assets that you own on the balance sheet, right? That is the liabilities section. The equities is those things that represent equity, right? And represent those things that have appreciated or are appreciating in value, okay? So what appears on your asset statement or the asset side of your balance sheet, i.e. your cash, that gets deposited into the bank. It is an asset on your balance sheet, but it is a liability on the bank's balance sheet. So here's the first lesson. What is an asset to you can sometimes become a liability to someone else or to a something else, okay? So what is that cash money that you have? It is an asset that appears on the asset side of your balance sheet. But when it is deposited in the bank, it now shows up on the bank's liability side of the equation on their balance sheet. Many people don't know that nor understand that. So when your direct deposits and your money goes into a bank, when we trust the bank, there's another key word, trusting the banking system. When we trust that system, we trust the bank to hold our money. It shows up on the liability side of their balance sheet. And so as a consequence of that, what do they have to do? They have to go out and either buy fixed income securities, meaning securities that have very low risk, i.e. treasuries, i.e. mortgage-backed securities. They have to put that or buy those, right? And that shows up on the asset side of their balance sheet, along with any other loans that they have made to cover what is on the liability side, i.e. what is in their deposits, right? In terms of the number of bank accounts and the amount of deposits that they have in their bank. So the banks look at your deposit this way. It is, one, it's a privilege, right, to bank with them and to hold your money. But two, it now creates a responsibility for them that they need to go and do something with it in order to now balance their balance sheet. So what we are seeing in the banking system is a result of the actions that the bank had to take in order to balance their banking, or in order to balance their balance sheet. So what does that mean for us going forward? And I won't get into the details of the banks that failed. You can do your research on Silvergate Bank as well as Silicon Valley Bank. And I talked a little bit about that on yesterday. What happens in these situations is this: banks merger, i.e. consolidate. So the smaller banks that are in jeopardy because they now need to balance their balance sheet, they're now going to potentially merge or be bought out by a larger bank. It remains to be seen what will happen with this bank that just most recently failed, that is Silicon Valley Bank. There is a board that convenes every Sunday to discuss the economic or stability of the banking system. They're likely going to meet tomorrow, and they're likely going to discuss what they're going to do with this Silicon Valley Bank. It remains to be seen whether this bank will remain in existence or if this bank now will be merged, i.e. bought out by another bank. What I am talking about now similarly happened in the 2008 financial crisis. This is why you saw a lot of banks fail, because the banks bought mortgage-backed securities, kept that on the asset side of their balance sheet. When those mortgage-backed securities failed because people weren't paying their mortgages, banks failed. We have got to move in wisdom, men and women of God, and look at what is happening in this financial system. You need to evaluate, where are your funds sitting right now? There is a bank with the initials WF that is having trouble covering direct deposits. If you bank with that bank right now, you need to get your money out. This system is failing. This system is coming to a point where there's going to have to be some form of either a bailout, meaning that the government, i.e. the Federal Reserve, comes in, steps in and save the banks, or there could be a bail-in, meaning that the bank says, we're not going to give you your money and we're going to keep it. And we're going to simply give you some form of credit or something like that against your deposits. We got to wake up. We have to wake up. So this council is going to meet on Sunday. We'll see what happens with the Silicon Valley Bank. We'll see what happens on Monday. I suspect the Treasury, the treasurer of the United States Treasury, or the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, will have to come out and she'll have to make a statement about what's going on. Perhaps the Fed Chairman, Jerome Powell, will come out with a statement as well. It will remain to be seen the moves that will be made as a result of the statements that happen. What they want to prevent and what they want to keep in play is they want you to keep your funds in the banks. They don't want a bank run, meaning they don't want a bunch of people running to the banks and getting their money out. I do not say this to stoke fear. I do not say this by way of being a fearmongerer. I am not that. But I do believe, very, very much so, I do believe that we must move in wisdom. We cannot sit around. We cannot look at these things that are happening and think that it doesn't require a response, because it does. But we must move in wisdom. We must move in wisdom. Now, I will not share with you necessarily all of the strategy that I gave in the class that I taught today, because I don't want to do that, because I don't want our friends here on this platform to shadow ban me and all of the other stuff that they do. However, I want you to evaluate where your funds are. If your bank is acting shady, you need to consider moving your funds out of that system and out of that bank. I would even encourage that you take a look at some credit unions. Get your money into a bit safer environment. Credit unions, thrift banks, saving and loans banks, they are let me not say nonprofit. That's not the right word. They are not for profit. That is the difference. And so putting your funds there is far better for you, because you become a stakeholder in that particular institution. And that is the difference. Evaluate where your funds are. You need to have a stash of cash. I know a lot of people are talking about cash is trash. Have a stash of cash. Do not trust what certain folks are telling you in regards to having a stash of cash. It is necessary. Get yourself some real money, i.e., some gold and some silver. I also want you to consider how you can begin to pool resources together. And forgive me for my country accent, but pool, P-O-O-L, meaning pool resources together. Have family meetings. Talk to your family. Figure out how now you can pool your resources together and you guys lend amongst each other. We are going to need access to capital. To my churches out there, you need to consider having a credit union. Why are we relying on a system when we can become a system that is self-sustaining? Get yourself a credit union. Build yourself a credit union. We can do it. We don't have to rely on what they are giving us. So, my last word is this. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Because they want to get us onto a digital currency. They want to bring us into a position where we are crying out for a digital currency. I don't know about you, but I don't want anybody looking at how I spend my money. And subsequently, I don't want anyone telling me when I can buy what I want to buy. But if we get on a digital currency marketplace without the proper regulation, without the proper guardrails in place, it will come to a point where we will be dictated to in terms of our finances. We must be in a position that we can function outside the system. We have to. We have to be able to function outside the system. We need access to capital. We need access to capital. Everybody may not be able to do it, but perhaps someone in your family or a few of you have really good credit scores. If you got credit cards, I want you to keep those credit cards open, keep zero balances on them in case you need the access to capital, i.e. the access to some funding and to some money. You have it. You have it. I see someone ask, how do we buy gold? I'm going to have to come on for another segment and show you how to do it. I share with my class today. I do not get on here and share with anybody what I don't know how to do. I am a practitioner of what I teach. But I feel so deeply in my heart that I need to keep coming on and I need to keep talking about these things because folks don't understand the implications. Here's the other thing I want you to understand. And I think this is my last point. I didn't have things written down, so I apologize if I'm a little bit all over the place. Let me say this. In terms of the banking system, when banks merger and when banks consolidate, they typically make access to capital easier for large businesses and large corporations. When banks merger, meaning when we have less banks, take a look in your neighborhood and count the number of banks you have in your neighborhood. And I know we all live in different places, right? Different regions. But in some neighborhoods, there's a plethora of banks. In other neighborhoods, not so much. And if y'all you're looking at this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In the instances where banks merger or are consolidated, the access to capital for large businesses becomes readily available. For the other folks, not so much. So for small businesses, your ability to have access to capital now becomes more and more limited as there are more and more problems in the banking system, i.e. having the need to have access to capital. For churches, specifically larger churches that you are keeping a lot of money in those banks, if that is the case, there is a reverse funnel effect that is happening, meaning that they're taking money out of your community, they're taking money out of your hands, and now they are making that capital more accessible to people who don't serve you. And so this is why it is so very important that you have money outside the system, that you figure out how you, in fact, can become a bank. You, your family, your community, whomever, because they're putting the squeeze on small businesses. They're putting the squeeze on you not having the access to the capital to start up businesses and to do the things that you need to do. This is not happening in a vacuum. This is not happening by happenstance. This is not a sequence of events that's just haphazard. This is not how it's happening at all. Okay? But we got to walk in wisdom. We have to walk in wisdom. I pray that this has been a blessing to you. I did not put the link here, but I am going to share the link to my classes here on Facebook. I'll put up another couple of episodes and things like that. If you join me on Dominion Mondays, I will also share the link to my next class there as well. If you can't make it, because I've been doing it on Saturdays in the month of March, I am coming back around again. I'm planning on doing a women building wealth coaching. I don't want to call it a conference, but let's call it a coaching workshop. And I'm going to do it at a very, very low cost because I need to help my kingdom sisters who can then talk to our kingdom brothers, and we can begin to build wealth and build community the right way. We can build wealth and we can build community the right way and outside this system. Peace and blessings to you all. Enjoy your Sabbath. I'll see you again on Monday for Dominion Mondays. Be blessed.